How you doing out there, Olivia? My name is Crem, and I'm the Director of Fitness, and I wanted to thank you for joining me for today's Mastering Form workout. In the Mastering Form workout video series, what you can expect is for me to show you some different moves that you can do, whether or not you're at home, you're at the gym, or maybe you are out and about and you're traveling, but most importantly, exercises that you can do safely. Learning proper form is key, not only just for making sure that you help to avoid injury, but so that your body is progressing the way you want it to. So you are able to strengthen those muscles the way you are looking for. So mastering form is really, really essential. So as usual, before we begin anything, I always recommend for you to just check with your physician. Make sure it's okay for you to begin any type of exercise routine, whether it's this class or any of the classes that we have available for you. Also, make sure you have water with you. It's important to stay hydrated. Doing this exercise class is no different, so make sure that you have your water nearby and listen to your body. If there's ever anything that you see on a video that you feel like, okay, it's a little bit much for me, or something's a little bothersome, maybe you have a pre-existing injury, just always listen to your body and do what you feel like you can do. In the Mastering Form series, it's going to take you through a pace of showing you different exercises. So we're going to go through a couple of upper body exercises today, a core exercise, something to work the midsection, as well as exercise to work the legs. So I'm really going to break down these specific muscle groups for you, break down these exercises, so that way you can really get the fundamentals of how to do the movement properly. Now, you can do these exercises today with dumbbells, which I'm going to show you with, or if you don't have any dumbbells available, cans work great, water bottles work great, just something to give you some resistance if you have that available. If not, just even going through the motion is really, really okay too. So remember, it's okay if you don't have something like dumbbells or barbells or something at home. I'm going to show you different things that you can do. Also, ways to modify. Maybe there's a move that I'm going to show you and you're like, okay, this is not quite fitting for me or working for me based on where my fitness level is at, or maybe I'm having a pre-existing condition with my body. What else can I do? So I'll show you a modification for the movements I'm going to show you today, so that way you can have some variety to choose from. All right, so let's dive on in. The first exercise I'm going to show you is called an upright row. An upright row is primarily meant to target the shoulders. Okay, so there's different parts of the shoulders here, and the upright row is really good at really kind of honing in on these specific groups. You're also going to get some arm movement in there as well. So don't be surprised if you feel this in your arms as well as your shoulders. Now, we're going to do this standing. You can definitely do this while seated. So if you feel like standing up is a bit challenging for you, we can do it seated as well. So I'll show you two different ways you can kind of handle that. Now, we're going to do it with some dumbbells. I always recommend that if this is a new exercise for you, you've never done it before, try to make sure that you start with a weight that is manageable for you. You can always get heavier weight, right? But the reason why I recommend starting with something lighter is because you really want to make sure you have the form down before advancing to a weight that's heavier. So I'm just going to have about 3 pounds here. Again, cans work well, bottles work well too. I want to make sure, number one, my posture is great. Sitting up nice and tall, my stomach muscles are nice and tight, and I have my dumbbells close together. And what I want to do is bring my dumbbells close to my chest, up about chest high, but notice my elbows get up above my ears. That's really important. I don't want my elbows down flat because I really want that emphasis on the shoulder muscles. But I also don't want to bring this up too high because at that point, it begins to take me out of range. So I'm going to bring it up. Dumbbells come to about chest. Elbows are about ear height and down. And up and down. Now, I could do this with bands as well, right? So maybe you have resistance bands that have the handles at home. Same thing, okay? You can also do it with a barbell or a broomstick if you don't have a barbell at home. So there's a lot of variety that you can do with the upright row. Now, just to kind of show you what that looks like from the side, same view right here. Now, there's lots of benefits of working with the shoulder muscles, but shoulders are great at helping you with back strength, great at helping you with your overall posture strength and upper body strength. So it's always a good idea to have shoulders in your routine. What I want to avoid doing is really kind of lunging the dumbbells up or the resistance up. So I don't want to swing. This is what I want to avoid doing. At this point, my back is involved too much, right? And I don't want to do that. I want to isolate my shoulders, right? And if I'm doing a lot of swinging, I'm really taking the emphasis off of what this exercise is for, right here. There we go. And up and down. And no matter what weight you're doing, if you're using the proper form, trust me, you'll begin to kind of feel that burn there. Now let's just say, for instance, as I mentioned, that doing them standing is something that's a little bit too challenging for you at this time. You can absolutely do these seated on a bench, seated on a chair. Also, if you find that your lower back gets involved too much, you have a little bit of a difficulty staying upright. Maybe you lean forward a bit and you're not as aware of it. Having a chair behind you or a bench behind you that forces your back to stay flat is also a great thing to do. But you can absolutely bring it down to the knees as well. And this is going to make the move a little bit harder because there's a lot less momentum when you take the legs out of play, right? But you definitely have to make sure, as I mentioned, that back is straight. Still want good posture. Gotta have that great posture right here. Good. Now, if I didn't have any dumbbells, right, let's just say I don't have anything at home to be able to utilize that, same movement right here. Also, really important to relax the neck. Try not to have any tension here. So try to make sure that you're not thinking about tensing the neck muscles because those can get super tight when you're doing a move like this. Good. All right. Perfect. So that was the upright row. Now I'm going to show you a bicep curl. A bicep curl, arm curl, there's lots of different names for it. Work primarily the front part of the arms. Working the arms is a great way, again, like I said, for upper body strength, right? Because it's good for when you need to pull, right? Your biceps are a lot involved when we're pulling as well as the back of the arms. It's also really good for pushing. We need that. For getting yourself up, right? For grabbing things. But again, that overall strength is really important. So you want to have a good sort of well-rounded routine when it comes to working your upper body, regardless if you're a male or a female, okay? So it really, sometimes we're concerned about if we're lifting too much or should we not do upper body because of maybe we think we're going to get bulky or things of that nature, but it's actually, there's a lot more to it than that to get bulky. So don't be afraid to really develop your upper body and help with that strength. So the bicep curl, you can do this exercise with dumbbells, which I'm going to show you. You can do it with bands, again, cans, water bottles. You can do it with laundry detergent, just something that's going to be balanced properly on both sides. So I'm going to show it to you first as I'm already down here on the floor. I'll stay right here. You can do them on the knees. Again, a little bit more challenging because there's not a lot of movement the legs can kind of help with. But again, great posture. Always starts from here. And there's different variations of where to position your palms. I'm just going to show you a basic curl here where my palms come up. Now, important thing to note is I want my elbows at the side of my body. Whenever you're doing curls, you want to avoid any kind of swinging motion. If I'm swinging, I'm probably managing or moving weight that's too heavy for me. And remember, we want to make sure that we are learning the form properly. So keep the elbows at the side of the body. And I'm just going to curl. Bring my palms towards my shoulders, back down. Palm towards the shoulders, down. My elbows are fixed right in the middle part of my body. There we go. Just like that. And what I'm doing is I'm just turning my wrist out. Turning my wrist out. Just like that. Now, it's important too, one thing to note is that you want your wrist to be straight when you're doing your curl. What you want to avoid is this. Okay? Did you see that? You caught that? When you do this, you put undue tension on the wrist. So you want to keep that wrist nice and fixed and just let the front of the arm or the bicep do the work. Now, let's say I wanted to do this standing. Absolutely can do that. Just make sure, again, you've got good posture. Everything is nice and tight. Here. And I would recommend, if you're doing the bicep curl when you're standing and this is your first time, to absolutely pick a weight that's manageable for you. Because this is something that we tend to do a lot of if the weight's too heavy. And what we're doing is we're forcing the back in there, we're forcing the legs in there, and the front of the arms aren't getting all the work. So let's just say we said, okay, Crem, being on my knees is tough, standing is tough. What's the way I can do that without having to kind of rely on that? So you can absolutely do them seated. So just to show you what that looks like when you are in the seated position with the curl is choose again something that's not going to move on you. So if you're doing a chair, that's fine, or a bench, that's fine as well. If you need back support, then I would want to bring this all the way up. If I feel like I don't need the back support, then just sitting on the bench or the chair is fine. I'm sitting nice and tight, still posture is good, that's always essential, and I'm curling. So you can absolutely do this from the seated position, like I'm doing now. You can do it from a kneeling position, on the knees, and you can absolutely do it when you're standing as well. Okay, so just focus on the front of those arms. Always think about the muscles you want to work. That's where your focus is. And always focus on your breath. Okay, so make sure that your breathing is right in line. In and out through the nose. In and out. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And up. Good. Perfect. All right, so we got the bicep curl down. We did the upright row. Now let's move along to the lower part, the core. Let's begin to bring ourselves down a little bit. So we're going to get rid of this bench. We don't need it at this point. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do what's called a fire hydrant. Okay? Now, fire hydrant is a great exercise to do because not only does it work this part of the leg, it gets the rear end involved, it gets the back of the thigh involved, and anytime you can work on the muscles in this area is really, really good for your balance, your stability. It's good for your hips as well. Also, your core gets engaged in there, so there's a lot of good benefits for working your leg muscles and doing what's called the fire hydrant. Now, what you want to do is you want to have a nice stable top. So that starts with the tabletop position. And I'm going to show you, don't worry, a modification if being on your hands is a bit tough to do. Now, when I'm doing this exercise, I want to make sure my back is straight. I want to avoid having a slouched back. Posture, posture, posture. Super important. I want to make sure when I'm doing this exercise, I'm bringing my knee up high as I can. So ideally, I want to try to bring the knee as high as the hip. That's going to depend on everyone, depending on your range of motion and your flexibility. So don't feel bad if you can't get your knee up quite as high. Also, you'll be surprised. You may have some differences between right and left. Sometimes you'll even get your knee up higher on the right than the left and vice versa. So don't worry, you'll get there. But that's just to give you an idea of where you want your knee to be. So I'm going to bring this knee up. And I'm bringing it down. Now, ideally, I like to avoid hitting that leg, right? And I like to avoid bringing it down on the floor. But if you're new to this move and you need to rest that leg after each rep or after each time you're doing it, then that's okay. So we're going to bring it up, down, up, down. And what I want to do while I'm bringing that leg up is to keep this 90-degree angle that's in my leg, if I can, and keep the knee higher than the foot. And what I mean by that is you want to try to avoid that, okay? You notice how my knee drops down to the floor and then my heel comes up? That puts us out of alignment, okay? We're not really targeting this area as much as we want to. So that's why I want to keep the knee as high as the hip and the knee and the heel dead center with each other. All right, so I'm lifting. And I want to keep my core tight, right? Remember, stomach muscles nice and tight. Okay? And then when you're ready, you alternate to the next side. Now let's say, for instance, you said, okay, it's a little bit troublesome to be on my hands. My hands bother me, wrist bother me, that's difficult. You can absolutely drop down to your elbows to do this move. So, on my elbows, same thing happens. Your range of motion might be a little bit more limited because you don't have as much space here, but that's okay. What you'll notice though is at least you're coming off the wrist, not putting so much tension there. If you have a big ball, like the balls that you would typically use for either physical therapy or for doing stomach work, you can also put the ball underneath you too. So there's some different ways to kind of handle that move. So remember, we're on the elbows, we're up and down. Still want to get that knee as high to the hip as I can. There we go. And keeping that heel down. Perfect. All right. So, fire hydrant, size of the leg, it's a burner. I love that exercise. Trust me, you will definitely feel it depending on where your rep range is, but either way, it's a really, really fun exercise to add to your lower body leg routine. Okay, now the next one we're gonna do is a twist, or an oblique twist. There's many different versions of a twist when it comes to the stomach. So we're gonna work the stomach muscles. And this one is where we're gonna have our feet down and relaxed. Depending on fitness level, there's tons of different ways to work your stomach muscles, okay? So I'm just gonna show you one that's pretty common to do and something that's kind of when from a level standpoint is not too much on the difficulty side. Now, with this exercise, you can also do it with resistance. So if I want to hold a can, dumbbells, a medicine ball, anything you can, but you don't need it, okay? So I'm leaning back, and I will say, if your lower back is a bit troublesome, I would avoid this exercise, okay? This is gonna put a little too much tension on the lower back. So if your lower back is a bit problematic, avoid this exercise. But I'm gonna show you a way to modify it too, but still just to be on a little bit of a lookout for that one. So let's say everything's ideal, no problems with the lower back. I'm gonna lean back. I say lean back, just enough to where I can feel like I can rest here and I'm secure. I don't feel like I'm gonna fall and I'm teetering where my feet are gonna come off the floor. I also wanna make sure that when I'm twisting, think of where your belly button is. Like I'm right now in the center, my belly button is the center. Sometimes when we're twisting and we're doing this move, we think about we've gotta get our hands or whatever we're holding all the way to the side. That's actually something I would change and really think about where your belly button is going. Because just because your hands can go way over here doesn't mean your belly button can. So just think about where your belly button can be. Now, that might affect your range of motion. You may say, well, hey, my belly button can only go to here. That's fine. That's just where your range of motion is at that time. That's where you're gonna get the maximum benefit of working the sides part of the belly, okay? Putting your hands all over here is not working the sides of your stomach as much. It's where your belly button is. So, hands are here. I'm leaning back and I'm twisting. Right and left, right? And I'm thinking about my hands are staying where my belly button is. And that's as far as my belly button is going. So that's as far as my hands are going. But that's okay. That also helps me focus on my stomach. So I'm keeping my stomach muscles tight, thinking about where my belly button is. So if I was this way, same thing, twist, 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 twist. Now, one thing that is common is we tend to hold our breath when we're doing that move. You gotta breathe. Breathe, 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 okay? So a good rule of thumb is something I like to focus on. It may be different for everyone. It's just think about breathing into the nose when something's easy, out through the mouth when something's a little harder, okay? So let's say just being in this position is tough. So we're just gonna breathe in, blow out. So you gotta keep that breath. There we go. Now let's say, for instance, your legs get tired. You're holding them up, right? they may get tired. You can absolutely have the legs straight. Same thing, right? So if you feel like having my legs up like that is tiring, you can definitely lower. You'll feel less tension on the thighs, okay? Now, let's say you like that idea of the twisting, but again, sitting up that way is really difficult for your lower back. One thing that you can do, right, and there are a ton of different ways that you can modify movements when it comes to your stomach muscles. If you want to get that twisting involved, is you actually, or not twisting, but you want to kind of highlight the sides of the stomach. Have your feet nice and wide. Heels are out. I want to be able to see my heel. I'm supporting my head with my hand. I want to give myself some support. And I'm just going to reach for my heel. Reach for my heel. This is going to give me lower back support, right? Because my lower back is on the floor. But I'm still focusing on the sides of my stomach, right? So I'm going to feel this in the upper part of my belly. I'm going to feel it in the sides of my belly. So I want to go to one side and then focus. So just to kind of show you what that looks like from this angle, I'm going to have my legs down. So imagine your heels are out nice and wide, and it's going to be this move here. Center. Center. And then I would just switch. Okay? Now let's say, for instance, you said, well, that's a little tough for me initially to kind of get that movement down of side to side. A good way to kind of get a handle on that is by doing a standing side bend. Hand up here, other hand here, or you can have a dumbbell here if you want some added resistance. And I'm just going to bend. Bend. Lowering my body. Lowering my side, and I'm squeezing right there. I want to make sure though, when I'm doing that, I'm not leaning forward. So I'm not leaning forward when I'm doing it. I'm not leaning backwards when I'm doing it. Just sliding that hand down to my knee. So that's another way to get the sides of the belly involved. Okay, so upper part, sides in there, but not to have so much undue pressure on your back. So that's always important to do is when you're choosing something that works the stomach, make sure that you don't have lower back challenges and really adjusting accordingly. All right, so we went through the upright row, which works the upper body, the shoulders, some bicep curls, works the front of those arms. We worked the stomach, right here on the sides primarily, and also the sides of the thigh, the rear end, and the back of the legs. So it was great being able to show you those 4 different exercises today. If you have any questions about the moves, any questions about modifications on those moves, email me, fitness@livia.com. If there's exercises that you specifically want to see, so maybe there's an exercise you're like, hey, I've seen this exercise, I saw videos of it, but I still don't quite get it. Let me know. I'll be glad to go over it with you and help you master the form. All right, just remember to keep moving no matter what, and we'll see you soon.